If an alien from a distant galaxy were to visit our planet Earth, the first thing that would amaze the baffle him would most probably be enormous diversity of life that he would encounter. Even for humans, the rich variety of living organisms with which they share their planet never classes to astonish and fascinate us. The common man would find it hard to believe that there are more than 20,000 species of ant, 3 lakh species of beetle, 28,000 species of fishes, and nearly 20,000 species of orchids. 20,000 species of ant, 3 lakh species of beetle, 28,000 species of fishes, and 20,000 species of orchids. Ecologists and evolutionary biologists may have been trying to understand the significance of such diversity by asking important questions. Why are there so many species? Did such great diversity exist throughout the Earth's history? How did this diversification come about? How and why is this diversity important to the biosphere? Would it function any differentiate if the diversity was much less? How do humans benefit from the diversity of life? In our biodiversity, in our biosphere, immense diversity or heterogeneity exists not only at a species level but at all levels of biological organization, ranging from macromolecules within the cells to biomes. Biodiversity is a term popularized by the sociobiologist Edward Wilson to describe the combined the combined diversity at all levels of biological organization. The most important of them are genetic diversity. A single species might be show high diversity at genetic level over its distributed land. The genetic variation shown by medicinal plant Rowolfia vomitoria, Rowolfia vomitoria, Rowolfia vomitoria, Rowolfia vomitoria, Rowolfia vomitoria, growing in different Himalaya ranges might be in terms of potentially and concentration active chemical rasparin that plant produce. India has more than 15,000 genetically different strains of rice and 1,000 varieties of mango, 1,000 varieties of mango and 50,000 genetically different strains of rice in their capacity. दूसरा species diversity. The diversity at the species level, for example, Western Ghats have a great amphibian species diversity than the Eastern Ghats. Western Ghats में amphibian diversity greater than Eastern Ghats. Ecological diversity. At ecosystem level, India, for instance, with its deserts, rainforests, mangroves, coral reefs, wetlands, estuaries, and alpine meadows, has a greater ecosystem diversity than a Scandinavian country like Norway. Scandinavian country like Norway. It has taken millions of years of evolution to accumulate this rich diversity in nature, but we could lose all the wells less than 2 centuries if the present trend of special losses continue. Within 2 century, less than 2 century, 2 century से कम 200 से कम साल में हम सब लूज कर देंगे जो भी इतने साल में biodiversity and its conservation are now vital or environmental issue of international concern as more people around the world begin to realize the critical importance of biodiversity for our survival and well-being of this planet. 3.1. How many species are there on the earth and how many in India? Since there were a published record of all the species discovered and named, we know how many species in all have been recorded so far. But it is not easy to answer the question how many species are there on the earth. According to IUCN, International Union of Conservation for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources, IUCN 2004 में established हुआ, the total number of plant and animal described as so far is slightly more than the total number of plant and animal species described so far is slightly more than 1.5 million, but we have no clear idea of how many species are yet to be discovered and described. Estimates vary widely, and many of them are only educated guess. For many taxonomic group species eventually are more complete in template and than in tropical countries. Considering then that an overwhelming large population of the species waiting to be discovered in the tropics, biologists make a statistical comparison of the temperate and tropical species richness and extensively studied group of insects and extrapolate this ratio to the other groups of animals and plants to come up with a gross estimates of the total number of species on Earth. Some extreme estimates range from 20 to 25, 50 million, but a more conservative scientifically a sound estimate made by Robert May places the global species diversity at about 7 million. 7 million प्लेस किया था रॉबर्ट मे ने. Let us look at some interesting aspect about the Earth biodiversity based on the currently available Currently available species implementation. More than 70% of all species are recorded in animal plants, including fungi and bryophyte, gymnosperm, and angiosperm, compared to no more than 22% of the total. Among animal insects are most species rich taxonomic group, making more than 70% of the total. That means out of every 10 animal on this planet, 7 are insect. Again, how do we explain animal diversity in the insect? The number of fungi species in the world is more than the combined total species of fishes, amphibians, reptiles, and mammals. In figure 3.0, biodiversity is depicted as showing the species number of major taxa. Very important है, याद कर लो. Uh, इंसेक्ट्स इस सबसे इनवर्टिब्रेट्स में सबसे ज़्यादा इंसेक्ट्स है, फिर मॉलस्क है, फिर क्रस्टेशियन है, फिर अदर एनिमल्स. इंदिरा गांधी मेडिकल कॉलेज इधर ट्रिक फॉर याद करने के लिए. वर्टिब्रेट्स में फिशेस सबसे ज़्यादा, फिर एम्फीबियंस, फिर रेप्टाइल्स, फिर बर्ड्स, फिर मैमल्स. इसको याद करने के लिए फिशेस आए थे जमीन पे, एम्फीबियंस, फिर एम्फीबियंस बने थे रेप्टाइल्स, रेप्टाइल्स बने थे बर्ड बने थे, बर्ड के बाद बने थे मैमल्स. प्लांट्स के लिए फंगा प्लस अलगा इज लाइकन एंड देन ब्रायोफाइट, देन टेरिफाइट्स एंड एंजियोस्पर्म इज अ लार्गेस्ट plant. It should be it should be noted that this estimate do not give any figure for prokaryotes. Biologists are not sure about how many prokaryotic species there might be. The problem is that conventional taxonomic methods are not suitable for identifying microbial subspecies, and many species are simply not culturable under laboratory conditions. If we accept biochemical or molecular criteria for delineating species for this group, then the diversity alone might run into millions. Although India has only 2.4% of our world lands, its share of global species diversity is an impressive 8.1%. Well, that's what make our country one of the 12 mega biodiversity country in the world. Nearly 45,000 species of plant and twice as many of animals have been recorded from India. 45,000 species of plant and 90,000 species of animal. That is twice of species of plant. How many living species are actually waiting to be discovered are named. If we accept May's global estimates, only 22% of the total species have been recorded so far. Applying this proportion to the Indian average figure, we estimate that there are probably more than 1 lakh plant species and more than 3 lakh animal species yet to be discovered and described. Would we have to complete the inventory of biologists, well of our country, consider the trainer manpower, economies, and the time required to complete the job? The situation appears more hopeless when we realize that a large number of fragments of these species are threat becoming extinct even before we discover them. Nature's biological library is burning even before we catalog the title of all book stocks there. Now, pattern of biodiversity. Latitudinal gradient. The diversity of a plant and animal is not uniform throughout the world, but shows a rather uneven distribution. Uneven distribution. For many group of animals or plants, there are interesting patterns in diversity. The most well-known being in the latitudinal diversity. In general, species diversity decreases as we move away from the equator towards the pole, with very few exceptions. Tropics latitudinal length 23 degree point 5 degree north to 23.5 degrees south harbor more species than temperate or polar areas. Tropics latitudinal range 23.5 degree north to 23.5 degrees south harbor more species than temperate or polar area. Colombia, located near the equator, nearly 14,000 species of birds, while New York at 41 degree in north has 105 degree species, 105 species, and Greenland at 71.9 only 56 species. In India, with much of its land area tropical latitude, has more than 1,200 species of birds. A forest of a tropical region like Ecuador has up to 10 times of many species as vascular plant as forest of equal area of temperate region like Midwest of USA. The larger tropical Amazon forest in the South America has the greatest biodiversity on Earth. It is a home for more than 14,000 species of plants, 3,000 species of fishes, 1,300 of birds, and 427 of mammals, 427 of amphibians, and 378 reptiles, and more than 125 of the invertebrates. Scientists estimate that in this rainforest there might be at least 2 million insect species are waiting to be discovered named. The largely tropical Amazonian rainforest in the South America has greatest biodiversity on the earth. Greatest biodiversity on the earth, tropical Amazonian rainforest के पास है, जो कि साउथ अमेरिका में है. What is so special about tropics that might account for their greater biological diversity? Ecologists and evolutionary biologists have proposed various hypotheses. Some important ones is speciation is generally a function of time. Unlike temperate regions subject to frequent glaciation in the past, tropic latitudes have remained relatively undisturbed for millions of years, thus had a long thus have a long evolutionary time for species diversification. The tropical environment, unlike temperate ones, are less seasonal, relatively more constant and predictable. Such constant environment promote nature specialization and lead to the greater species diversity. Third, there is more solar energy available in tropics, which contributes to higher productivity. This is turns might contribute indirectly to the greater diversity. Species area relationship. During his during his pioneering and extreme exploration in the wilderness of South American jungles, the great German naturalist and geographer Alexander von Humboldt observed that within a range of range region, species region increase with increased explored area, but only up to a limit. In fact, the relation between a species region and area for a wide variety of taxa and just of plants, birds, bats, and freshwater fishes turns out to be a rectangular hyperbola turned out to be a rectangular hyperbola. Angiosperm plants, birds, bats, freshwater fishes turn out to be a rectangular hyperbola. On a logarithm scale, the relationship is a straight line as described as by the equation log s plus log c plus z log a. Whereas in specifications A is the area that is the slope of the regression coefficient and C is y-interception. Ecologists have discovered that the value of Z lies in the range 0.02 regardless of the taxonomic group reason whether it is the plant in the breeding birds in California or mollusk in New York State. The slope of the regression lines are amazingly similar. But if you have analyzed the species area relationship among the very large area like the entire continent, you will find the slope of the line much steeper. Z value range 0.6 to 0.12. For example, the frugivorous fruit-eating birds and mammals in the tropic forest of a different continent, the slope is found to be 1.15. 1.15 log log scale log as जो स्पीसीज का डायरेक्ट प्रोपोर्शनल जो एरिया की जेड पावर कॉफिशिएंट है और सी से रेक्टेंगुलर हाइपरबोला बनता है स्पीसीज एरिया जिसमें अलेक्जेंडर वॉन हैम्बर्ट ने दिया था. The importance of species representation of the ecosystem. Does the number of species in a community really matter for the function of the ecosystem? This is a question which ecologists have been not able to define answer. For many decades, ecologists believe that communities with more species generally tend to more stable and then those with the less species. What exactly is stability for a biological community? A stable community should not show too much variation in productivity from year to year. It must be either resistant or resilient to the occasional disruption, natural or man-made, and it also be a resistant to invasion by alien species. We don't know how these attributes are linked to the speciation in a community, but David Tillman's long-term ecosystem experiment using outdoor plots provides some tentative answer. Tillman found that the plots with more species shows less year-to-year variation in total biomass. Tillman found that plot with more species shows less year variation in total biomass. He also showed that in his experiment, increased diversity contributed to higher productivity. Increased diversity contributed to higher productivity. Although we may not understand completely how species contribute to the well-being of an ecosystem, we know enough to realize that the rich biodiversity is not only essential for ecosystem health but imperative for a very survival of human race on the planet. At a time when we are losing species at an alarming pace, one might ask time when does it really matter to us if a few species become extinct? Would Western Ghat ecosystem be less fractional if one of the tree frog species is lost forever? How is our quality of life affected if, say, instead of 20,000, we have only 15,000 species of ants on the earth? There are no direct answer to such native question, but we can develop a proper perspective through an analogy. The river puppet hypothesis used by Einstein Fund ecologist polar areas. Polar areas in India are revert puppet habitat. In aeroplane ecosystem, all part of a join together using thousands of revert species. If every passenger traveling in it starts popping or revert to take home, causing a species to become extinct, it may not affect flight safety, proper functioning of the ecosystem initially, but as more and more are removed, the plane becomes dangerous big over a period of time. Furthermore, which is rivets is removed may also be critical. Loss of rivets on the wings. Loss of rivets on the wings, key species that drive major ecosystem function, is obviously a more serious threat to flight safety than losses of a few rivets on the seats or windows inside the plane. Loss of biodiversity. While it is doubtful if any species are being added through exploitation into the Earth through three species, there is no doubt about their continuing losses. The biological wealth of our planet has been declining rapidly, and accusing accusing finger is clearly pointing to the human activity. The colonization of tropical Pacific island by human is said to have led to the extinction of more than 2,000 species of native birds. The colonization of tropic Pacific island by human is said to have led to the extinction of more than 2,000 species of native birds. The IUCN released 2004 document the extinction of 785 species, including 338 vertebrates, 359 invertebrates, 87 plants in last 500 years. Some examples of a recent extinction include Dodo mauritius, Koga, Africa, Thylacine, Australia, Ishnerziga, Russia, and three subspecies Bali Javan Caspian of tiger. The last 20 years alone have witnessed the disappearance of 27 species. Carefully analysis of record shows that extinction across taxa are not random. Some groups like amphibians appear to be more vulnerable to extinction. Adding to this grim scenario of extermination is the fact that more than 15,500 species worldwide are facing the threat of extinction. Presently, 12% of all bird species 12% of all bird species, 23% of all mammal species, 32% of all amphibian species, and 31% of all gymnosperm species in the world face to threat of extinction. 15,500 species worldwide फेस कर रहे हैं और उसमें से 12% बर्ड स्पीसीज और 23% मैमल स्पीसीज और 32% एम्फीबियन स्पीसीज और 31% जिम्नोस्पर्म स्पीसीज. From a history of life on Earth through fossil records, we learned that the large scale of loss of species like the one we are currently witnessing have also happened earlier, even before humans appear on the scene. During the long period greater than 3 billion since the origin and diversification of life on Earth, there were 5 episodes of mass of extinction. How is the sixth extinction present in progress different from a previous episode? The difference is in the rate. The current species extinction rates are estimated to be 100 to 1000 times faster than in the pre-human times, and our activities are responsible for the faster rate. Ecologists warn that if the present trends continue, nearly half of all the species on Earth might be wiped out within the next 100 years. In general, loss of biodiversity in a region may lead to the decline of plant production, lowered resistance to the environment, depression such as drought, and increased variability in a certain ecosystem process, such as the plant productivity, water use, pest, and disease cycle. Causes of biodiversity. The accelerated rates of species extinction that world is facing now are largely due to human activities. There are four major causes. The evil content is the sub-frequent used to describe the evil content. Pehla, habitat loss and fragmentation. This is the most important of driving animal and plant extinction. The most tragic example of habitat loss came from tropical rainforest, once covering more than 40% of Earth's land surface, more than 14% of Earth's land surface. This rainforest now cover no more than 6%. बाप रे बाप 14% Earth's land पहले cover करता था अपना Amazon rainforest, but अभी सिर्फ 6% करता है. They destroy fast. By the time of you finish reading this chapter, 100 more hectares of rainforest would have been lost. The Amazon rainforest it is so used that it is called the lungs of a planet, harboring probably millions of species being cut and cleared for cultivating soybean or for conservation of a grassland for rising beef cattle. Besides total loss, degradation of many habitats by pollution also threatens the survival of many species. When large activities, mammals and birds are Habitats are broken up into small fragments due to the various human activities. Mammals and birds require lack habitats, and certain animals with migratory habits are badly affected, leading to the population decline. Second is overexploitation. Humans have always depended on nature for food and shelter, but when needs turns to greed, it leads to overexploitation of natural resources. Many species extinction in last 500 years, still seek our passenger pigeon, were due to the overexploitation by human. Presently, many marine fish population around the world are harvested, endangering the continued extraction of some commercially important purpose. Third is alien species invasion. When alien species are introduced unintentionally or deliberately to for whatever purpose, some of them turn invasive and cause decline extinction of indigenous species. The Neeleperch introduced in Lake Victoria, Neeleperch introduced in Lake Victoria, in East Africa, eventually lead to the extinction of ecologically unique assemblage in more than 200 species, more than 200 of chisel fish in lake. You must be familiar with the environment damage which cause and threat posed to our native species, invasive weed species like carrot grass, Parthenium, lanthana, and water hyacinth, Ecornia. Carrot grass, Parthenium, Lantana, water hyacinth, Ecornia. The recent illegal introduction of African catfish, Calaria gripinus, for aquaculture purpose is posing a threat to the indigenous catfishes in our rivers. Calarius गैरिपिनस दैट इज अफ्रीकन कैटफिश की वजह से हमारी खुद की कैटफिश पे प्रॉब्लम आ गई, ठीक है। Coextinction. When a species become extinct, the plant and animal species associated with its and obligately will also become extinct. When a host fish become extinct, its unique assemblage of a parasite also meet the same fate. Another example in the case of coeval plant pollinator mutualism, where the extinction of one many reasons, some obvious, other not so equally important. They can be grouped into the three categories: narrowly utilitarian, broadly utilitarian, and ethical. The narrowly utilitarian argument for conservation of biodiversity argues human derive for the countless and direct economic benefits from the nature. Food kills plus food fiber as construction material, industrial product, tannin, lubricant, dyes, resin, perfumes, and product of the medical importance. More than 25% of the drugs currently sold in the market worldwide and derive from the 25,000 species of planet and contribute to the traditional medicine used by the native people around the world. 25% जो ड्रग्स बन रहे हैं वो 25,000 प्लांट से बन रहे हैं, ठीक है, स्पीसीज ऑफ प्लांट की वजह से बन रहे हैं 25%. Nobody knows how many more medicinally useful plants are there in tropical environment waiting to be explored. With increased resources put into the bio prospecting, exploring molecular genetic and species level diversity for her product economic importance. Nation endowed with rich biodiversity can accept to reap enormous benefit. Rich. The broadly utilitarian argument says that biodiversity play a major role in many ecosystem services that nature provides. The broadly utilitarian argument says that biodiversity play a major role in many ecosystem services that nature provides. The fast dwindling Amazon forest is estimated to produce through photosynthesis 20% of the total oxygen in the Earth's atmosphere. 20% of the total oxygen in the Earth atmosphere. Can we put an economic value on this service by nature? You can get some idea. Our finding on how much neighborhood hospitals spend on the cylindrical of oxygen pollination. Pollination without which plant cannot as fruit and seed is another service ecosystem provide through a pollinated layer bees, bumblebees, birds and birds. What will be the cost of economic pollination without help of a nature pollinator? There are other intangible benefits that we derive from the nature and aesthetic pleasure walking through thick woods and watching spring flowers in full bloom or walking up the bulbul song in the morning can put a price tag on a person. The ethical argument for conservation biodiversity is related to the or to million of plant and animal and microbe species with the whom we share this planet. Philosophically, spiritually, we need to realize that every species has an interesting value, even if it may not be to be current or any economic values to us. We have a moral duty to care of their well-being and pass our biological legacy in good order to our future generation. How do we conserve biodiversity? When we conserve and protect the whole ecosystem is biodiversity it at all level is protected. We save the entire forest to save the tiger. This approach is called in situ conservation on site. However, when there is a situation when an animal or plant endangered or threatened, organization facing a very high risk of extinction in the wild in the near future and needs urgent measure to save its extinction, ex situ off situ conservation is desirable approach. In situ conservation, faced with the conflict between the development and conservation, many nations and find it's unrealistic and economically not feasible to conserve all their biological wealth. Invariably, the number of species waiting to be saved from extinction far exceeds the conservation of resources available. On a global basis, this problem has been addressed by eminent conservationists. They identified for maximum protection certain biodiversity hotspot region with very high levels of species resistance and high degree of endangerment. That is, species confined that region and not found anywhere else. Initially, 25 biodiversity hotspots were identified, but subsequently, 9 more have been added to the list, bringing the total number of biodiversity hotspots by 34. Initially 25 थे, अब 34 हो गए. Initially 25 थे, अब 34 हो गए. These hotspots are also reason of accelerated habitat loss. Three of these hotspots, Western Ghats in Sri Lanka, Indo-Burma, and Himalaya, cover our country's exceptionally high biodiversity region. Although all biodiversity hotspots put together cover less than 2% of the Earth's land area, the number of species they collectively harbor is extremely high, and strict protection of this hotspot could be reduce the ongoing mass extinction by almost 30%. 30% they reduce 30%. 30%. In India, ecologically unique and biodiversity rich regions are legally protected by the biosphere national park sanctuaries. India now has 14 biosphere reserves, 19 national parks, 448 wildlife sanctuaries. India has also a history of a religious, cultural, and tradition that emphasizes protection of nature. In many cultural tracts of a forest, we are set aside, and all trees and wildlife within the were venerated, given total protection. Such as sacred groves are found in Khasi and Jaintia Hills in Meghalaya, Aravalli Hills in Rajasthan, Western Ghats in Karnataka and Maharashtra, and Sarguja Chanda Basta areas of Madhya Pradesh. In Meghalaya, the sacred groves are last refuge for a large number of rare and threatened plants. In Meghalaya, the sacred groves are the last refuge for a large number of rare and threatened plants. Exit. In this approach, threatened animals and plants are taken out from their natural habitat and placed in a special setting where they can be protected and given a special code. Zoological park, botanical and wildlife park were served for this purpose. There are many animals that have become extinct in the wild but continue to be maintained in the zoological park. In recent years, access to conservation and advanced beyond keeping the threatened of species in closures. Now governments of threatened species can be preserved in viable and fertile conditions for a long period using cryopreservation technique. Eggs can be fertilized in vitro and plant can propagated using tissue culture. Seeds of different genetics strains of commercially important plant can be kept for long period in seed banks. Biodiversity knows no political boundaries, and its conservation therefore is a collective responsibility of the all nations. The historic convention on biological diversity, the Earth Summit held in Rio de Janeiro in 1992, called upon all nations to take appropriate measures for conservation of biodiversity and sustainable utilization of its benefit. The follow-up World Summit on Sustainable Development 2002 in Johannesburg, South Africa, 190 countries pledged their commitment to achieve 2010 a significant reduction in the current rate of biodiversity loss at global and regional and local levels. Summary. Since life originated on Earth in nearly 3.8 billion years ago, there had been diversity of life forms on Earth. Biodiversity refers to the sum of a total diversity that exists all levels of a biological organization. Of particular importance is the diversity. Biodiversity refers to the sum of total diversity that exists at all levels of biological organization. Of particular importance is the diversity at genetic, species, and ecosystem level, and conservation efforts are aimed at protecting diversity of all this level. More than 1.5 million species have been recorded in the world, but there might be nearly 6 million species on Earth waiting to be discovered and named. Of the named species, greater than 70% of animal, 70% are insect. The group fungi has more species than all vertebrate species combined. India, with about dozen species of plant and twice as many species of animal, is one of the 12 megabiodiversity to the world. Species diversity on the Earth is not uniformly distributed but shows an interesting pattern. It's generally highest in tropics and decreases towards the poles. Important explanation of the species ranges in the tropical are tropics have more evolutionary time. They provide a relatively constant environment and they receive more solar energy, which contribute to greater productivity. Species distribution is also a function of an area of a region. The species evolution is generally rectangular hyperbolic function. It is believed it is believed It is believed that communities with high diversity then should be less variable, more productive, and more resistant to the biological illnesses. The Earth's fossil history reveals the incident of a mass extinction in the past, but present rate of extinction is largely attributed to human activities are 100 to 1000 times and higher. Nearly 700 species become extinct in recent times, and more than 15,000 species, of which greater than 650 are from India, currently face the threat of extinction. This causes high extension rate at present include habitat, particularly forest loss of and fragmentation, overexpansion, biological invasion, and coexistence. Earth's biodiversity is a vital for every survival of the mankind, and the reason for conserving biodiversity are narrowly utilitarian, broadly utilitarian, and ethical. Besides the direct benefits of food, fiber, farming, there are many indirect benefits related to ecosystem services such as pollination, pest combination, climate moderation, and food control. We also have a moral responsibility to take good care of biodiversity and pass it into good order to our next generation. Biodiversity conservation might be maybe in situ as well as ex situ. In situ conservation, the endangered species are protected by their natural habitat so that the entire ecosystem is protected. Recently, 54 biodiversity hotspots in the world have been proposed for intensive conservation effort. Of these, three Western Ghats, Sri Lanka, Himalaya, and Indo-Burma covers India's rich biodiversity region. Our country's in situ conservation efforts are reflected in its 14 biosphere, 19 national parks, and 440 wildlife sanctuaries. Many scared groups. Ex situ conservation methods include protective maintenance of threatened species in zoological park and botanical garden, in vitro fertilizer, tissue culture propagation, and cryopreservation of gametes.